Hi, it's Amy from Click Roll Boom, and today I'll be speaking to LA-based rock band I.
Right, so how did the band first come together? What initially sparked the collaboration?
Well, we had a mutual friend, and we would just go to different gigs. And I saw him play. He was in a Black Sabbath tribute band, and I it's just one of those things where I want to meet that guy because I like the way he played. And at the time, he was playing bass, because I was between bands, and we met. And I found out he played guitar, and we just kind of hooked up from there. Got together, showed me some songs he had. I wrote to it, and it just kind of took off from there.
Question I have for you, with your band name being I, do you think having such a simple band name holds you back and stops you getting like listens and people finding you on Spotify?
That one's yours.
It does in some senses because people just aren't willing to accept that that's just the name of the band. So that we always have problems with people putting us on marquees or on bills under I band, the I band, I the band. They won't accept just I. It's just a little.
One of my favorite bands are called A. I don't know if you've heard of A, but I've always found like finding information on them. So if you want to Google A band, you just get stuff, all kinds of stuff. It's really difficult to find anything out. It's like difficult to find them on Spotify and that kind of thing. I just wondered if you have ever considered lengthening your name, making it sort of easier, more accessible to find.
Yeah, we haven't until maybe about 6 months ago. The label finally called us and said, like, no one's finding you. So they came up with ideas and they put an asterisk next to the I as far as like searching us. So when you look for us, they always say just I asterisk and it'll pop up. But we don't use it as far as our logo, but that was our compromise because they were kind of going nuts that people weren't trying to find us. Yeah.
What is the meaning behind the I?
Yeah, as far as changing it, well, we're just too obstinate and pig-headed.
Fair enough.
People better figure us out rather than us trying to figure them out. And
fair enough, yeah.
Like nobody had a problem with X, like X is a famous band, like So
what is relevant to the I?
And the thing is, we started this band a long time ago, and the I thing was not a thing. And now internationally, everywhere there's an I for information booths. Apple came along and stole our ideas, so it's iPhones and iPads, all that kind of stuff. So it's unfortunate we didn't copyright it years ago.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And what is the meaning behind it?
The meaning behind it? It's a little long-winded, but in the English language, we use a capital I to refer to ourselves as if we're very self-important. So the idea was just a lowercase I, meaning we're not really that important. Don't puff yourself up so much.
I like it. Who would you say has influenced your music most, and are there any less obvious influences that you draw from?
The ones that I think we have in common are like Black Sabbath, Pink Floyd, and King's X. Those are the three bands we see really eye to eye with. Otherwise than that, like I grew up playing Mexican music with my family, so I have a lot of like Mexican singers that influenced me a lot. Dolores O'Brien from the Cranberries was a big influence on me growing up, stuff like that. And then he comes from a little more obscure influences.
Well, but a lot of jazz as well. Listening to a lot of jazz. Drummer likes a lot of jazz stuff. Bass player likes a lot of metal.
Yeah, he's like we're more metal,
Yeah, but we grew up with that too, so it's undeniable. It's in there. I think also Alice in Chains has a big influence on our writing.
Yeah, your sound is very grunge, I would say.
Hey, see, he refuses to wear the moniker, but I don't mind. That's when we started. We were in the first incarnation of the band. We were literally in that era. Yeah, so. I'll wear that badge proudly.
Maybe a bit grunge and a bit maybe shoegaze as well.
At times we do have some lengthy sort of
yeah,
jammy kind of songs like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Even I suppose elements of post rock as well, like with the kind of textures and the sparseness and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's evolved over time. I think when the early incarnations, we were definitely more just a heavier band, and we explored sort of softer sides, more like directly acoustic thing. And now it's kind of blended in more, a little more textural in the guitars. So
Could you walk me through your songwriting process? How do you typically go from an idea to a finished track?
There's two ways. Either he'll come up with an idea on the guitar, give it to me, and then I'll write over it. Or sometimes I'll come up with a melody and I'll hand it to him and he'll write under it. And then once we get like the basic idea of what we're gonna do, then we get together and we flush it out and add what we need, and then we take it to the guys, and then they do what they do to it too. But it's usually like it goes like that, one way or the other.
Does the music always come first?
yes.
The music,
Well, I think all of it in terms, the music always comes first, as opposed to like an idea of we want to write this kind of song or that kind of thing. We don't go into the process with like a preconceived idea, like we need to write a song that sounds like this or is that. So whether it's my noodling on the guitar that starts something out or his melody, it always stems from the music first, for sure.
So it would never come from a lyrical idea. You'd never think, I want to write a song about this situation and then write the song around that.
that would come. I would do that sometimes. Like for instance, our last song, January. I just saw a bunch of Christmas trees thrown on the street after Christmas, and it just kind of like said, like, oh, that's kind of sad when I saw that. Like everyone loved this tree, and it was like the center of attention, and I was just thrown on the street. So that kind of sparked an idea, and then that brought the melody. So sometimes, but we never go into like we need to write a song about this specific thing, unless it just kind of happens, and then we roll with it. But
where do your lyrical ideas come from?
excuse me.
Where do your ideas for lyrics? Where does that side of it come from?
I wish I was a better storyteller and I could like make up a story, but I write from experience. Either something I see, something I hear, something I went through, or even if I someone else go through it, I tend to write like that. I said sometimes I wish I could just make up a cool story like John Cougar and just like make up these characters, but I'm very I stay in my lane as far as that. That's where I get my creativity from. Yeah.
Are you the primary lyricist then?
Yes.
Yes.
I leave that to him.
Yeah, and I don't get involved with the music except because the only thing we do together really is the arrangement. As far as like, I never say like, try this or try that. I just, we just let the song breathe and let it just become what it is. And he does his part, I do my part, and it always just.
We're kind of like a low end rock version of Elton John and Bernie Taupin kind of thing,
What do you hope to convey in your live performance? Is there any particular vibe or energy you strive to sort of bring to your shows?
That one's yours.
We like to do things in sort of a continuous thing. We don't like talking a lot. We don't really have a lot of audience interaction, It's usually we like to thread most of our set all together. We'll do bunches, 3, 4, 5 songs in a row. Just we kind of seam them together somehow. I put the sets together in that way so that kind of, well, when we are coming out of this song, we'll go right into this song and have this sort of continuous thread. It's almost like listening to a concept album, but seeing the live performance. So we just like to let the music tell our story.
Is that because you want it to sound conceptual, or is it because you don't like the talking part, or is it a bit of both?
A little bit of both.
He doesn't like talking. I talk too much. So it's the balance. Let's try not to talk at all.
Yeah, we take like at least 2 pauses during our set. One, of course, to like, if it needs to be, I'll introduce the band. If it's played in front of people who never played before, or just to like, hey, we have merch. This is our address here, stuff like that. But sometimes if I do any kind of talking, it'll be like doing an intro of a song. We tend to have like somewhat long intros, so I could whatever I have to say. But yeah, it's just I'm not David Lee Roth. I don't like to be up there and talk a lot and make it about myself. So yeah.
And I tend towards being snide to the audience, so it's better if I just quiet.
Yeah, I need
this next question might be irrelevant. How do interactions with your fans influence your music and performances? Can you share a memorable experience with a fan?
Well, we do a song called Nothing, and it's I don't know if you heard it, it's one of our singles. It starts off a cappella, and one time I forgot we were performing it, and like it starts with me saying, "Hey, hey, Mister" is the first line, and I forgot who it was what started like saying "hey" back. Like I started "hey" and they said "hey," and I was just like, "Oh," so they want to kind of be playful about it. So that kind of influenced that. So every time we do this song, we do kind of like this. I call it roll call, and I say "hey" and say "hey," and it goes back and forth, and then we start the song, which is it's kind of fun. It's kind of out of our comfort zone in a way because now we're interacting with the crowd, but it's a fun way to get them. And we usually do that song kind of in the middle, so kind of like brings them back, to the set. But I think that's the only one I could think of that a fan or someone in the audience kind of sparked something. Think of something.
Well, in a not on stage, but like in a direct one-on-one feedback with an audience member once, we had that great quote, if you remember, where after our show, a guy came up to us and said, "Man, I really like your band." He said, it reminded me of my dead father, which was kind of like, that's almost what we're going for. We're trying to dig under the skin a little bit, as opposed to hit you in this way. We want to go this way.
Yeah.
People, the messages can get a little not directly deep or anything, but I think the messages can be kind of perceived that way. They're pretty open for
intense. It can be quite an intense sound, an intense feel, intense lyrics. The whole thing's quite it's quite an impending package at times.
Yeah, and then when I write, I have bipolar disorder, so sometimes my moods are depending where I'm at. So if we get a piece of music or something comes to me, I really just go with how I'm feeling. Like some songs that are hopeful, we have some songs that are just like dark, and some in between, and I don't fight it. It's like, this is the mood I'm in right now, so I write, and I go back to it later, even though I might not be in that same headspace. It's easy for me to get back into that headspace. So lyrically, the musics tend to be, they mean something, whether at least to me, whether it means something else, it's real open for interpretation. And I tend to write a lot in metaphor too, so it's kind of open all the time.
We try not to use the word baby in any of the songs.
Oh God, no!
You can't have the word baby in there.
That's my biggest pet.
No, definitely not.
And just fill it up with a baby, hey baby, or a yeah, no. Yeah, no, we don't do any of that stuff.
No, definitely not.
Big pet peeves.
Should be banned.
Right.
And can you tell us about your latest project? What themes or sounds are you exploring with your new releases?
Well, the one we have coming up, our next single is going to be a song called Unheard. If you listen to most of the other stuff that we have out, it's a bit of a departure. It's our label has described it, and our producer has described it as maybe our most accessible song.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit uplifting, but it still has a bit of a blanket of a gray cloud, if not a black cloud, hanging over it somehow. But it's not exactly jaunty, but it is, as you were saying, it's a little bit more spatial, a little more ethereal, maybe in the sound and the textures of the guitar and the vocals and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a departure. But the song we'll have following this one up will be very, very the opposite version. We'll be on different sides of the poles when you hear the next songs that in order that we're going to release.
So is your aim to put out an album or just continue releasing singles?
The plan is we have, I'm not sure how many singles we have out, but the plan is to put out enough singles to make an album. And once our singles are out, we're going to combine them into an album. Right now we're doing EPs, like 4-song EP, and we're working on our second 4-song EP. And then the next 4 songs, instead of releasing as an EP, we'll just pull all the songs together and make the album.
And somehow maybe try to collectively make it a more cohesive thing. So maybe, again, not a fully concept album, but something where the songs are kind of telling a story. We'll try to figure out what story we've been telling for the last 20 years and put it all into.
Yeah, we have to figure that out. Yeah.
It's like a collection of short stories that we want to turn into a novel somehow. So
will
we'll probably
before the first EP?
When we get there. So
will that combine the first EP as well, or will that be just a new stuff?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it'll be a combination of stuff that we already have, but with some new stuff that will have not been heard at that point, and we'll, like I said, stitch it all together into a nice quilt. You know.
Every band faces challenges, whether it's creating music or on tour. Could you share a significant challenge you've overcome and what it taught you?
Huh.
I don't know that we've overcome any of our challenges quite yet.
Right. Like the obvious ones, like you said earlier, like the name, get like to remember it's just the I. And I think it's the comfort thing for them, like I the band, the band I, and which is fine. I get it, but it's sometimes it can. I think it annoys him more than me.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
That's beyond a pet
Right.
peeve. That's
when-
like,
When we came up with our
my pet gorilla peeve.
when we came up with like our address for like our social media, David the drummer said iBand official. We're like, oh, that makes sense, And then but now some people go like, oh, it's iBand official. It's just like how does that work?
How does anyone even
You know?
think that that's our name? It's astounding.
Yeah.
But as far as the challenges, without getting too personal, I'll keep it between us. It's like we're both very strong-headed. Like he's like my brother. Like my wife's looking for him. I mean, so he's responsible for all this. But sometimes we'll be like, he's more technically. He's like a musician.
Yeah.
I'm just a singer. Like I always say, I'm a fraud. I'm just a dude with a melody and a poem. You know what I mean? But I don't musically. I don't like. He'll say things. I'm just like, hey, whatever, bro. Just give me the music. You know what I mean?
Works in rock.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
So,
not doing musical theater, so it's okay.
so sometimes we'll butt heads in that way where he'll be like, say something, and I'll be like, I hear it differently, because I'm not coming from that schooled version. But that's never like a problem where we're like, if anything happens like that, we'll just put the song aside. Like I think I sat on a song for almost a year just because I just couldn't get the groove of what he gave me, But it came. I always say, you got to wait for the muse. When the muse shows up, you take it, you run with it. But aside from that, I mean, can't think of anything major. Yeah.
Other than the challenge of being in Los Angeles and trying to do music.
Yeah,
It's,
that's true.
let me tell you, kids, don't move to LA if you think you're going to make it in the music biz. It's like literally the worst place to come.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised with that.
Yeah, people will tell you the fantasy part about coming to Hollywood and doing all this stuff, but it's a rough game out here. There's not a lot of, as this may seem surprising because, everyone thinks of the famous clubs out here, the Whiskey, the Roxy, all these places, but really what's been co-opted in music, it's all about money. So you want to do a club show, you got to give us money for the privilege of playing at your club.
Yeah. That is the problem.
Yeah. So no real scenes can ever develop anymore because everybody's just bringing their friends and family because they have to pony up a certain amount of money and sell tickets, do a show. So basically there's no scene. It's a bunch of people there to see one band and they all go home. So there's no organic scene of people who just go to a club because they want to have a drink and watch live music. So you never get a chance to build a true audience. It's really difficult in LA because of that.
Not the 80s anymore.
Yeah,
people still think it's the 80s where everyone supports each other and then everyone's in the clubs and it's very tribal and it's very and then there's cliques and some bands like to play together. It's very strange. Very strange.
I'm not sure that's just an LA thing. I think I see that here.
Oh, do you?
And we're quite rural where we are, quite a small city, and I think I see, you'll go to a gig and it'll be sort of smaller local bands and there'll be 4 bands in the lineup, and after each band the fans will clear out and new fans will come in because they're not there for the whole show, they're just there to see the mates.
That's the problem. It's hard to find organic scenes where people go and just hang out, and whatever band comes through, they just want to hear music. But I think that's just a sign of the times, the way people hear music now anyway. The people people just stay home on their computers and search things. That's how they find music. So it's a little difficult.
I think some of the issue with music now is, although it's great that there's Spotify and there's so much music, there tends to be too much music and everything just gets lost. I know my own, when I'm listening to things, and you just you'll listen to a band a lot for like a couple of days and then you'll forget them for months because there's so much other music that's there. I think Yeah.
Yeah.
Blessing
So
and a curse.
there's good and bad with the way
Yeah.
the music is now, you know.
Definitely.
Both democratic, but still, you know, there's powerful forces that still influence the consumer's taste towards certain things. There's still big money in it,
Yeah.
you know, but it's harder even for, you know, smaller bands to get a breakthrough. So
Definitely. Yeah. Sad, really. So, looking ahead, what are some of your goals or aspirations for the band? And are there any new musical directions you'd be interested in exploring?
Our main goal right now is to put out as much music as possible.
Yeah.
We're not we don't like gigging. I should say we don't like gigging. We prefer not to gig a lot. Like,
Mhm.
you know, 3-4 times a year, we're happy. You know, we're not one of those bands who has to be out there every week or every month. You know, we try to space it out.
Yeah.
But recording is like our big focus right now. We have a lot of songs that need to be recorded, and that's this next year for sure. That's gonna be our big focus, is getting in the studio and getting these songs out, and picking up gigs when, you know, when we feel the itch to play. You know, just
it kind of goes with what you were saying. You know, this is where people find the music, so it's more important to build that library online so people have
Definitely.
the ability to hear as much of your content as possible. If you go up, like right now, we just started, we got hooked up with the label. So, you know, we have maybe 6-7 songs available. We have more, but, you know, but not polished studio work.
Yeah.
So, you know, when people might find one song and they like it, so they go to follow the thread and then they realize, well, they only have about 6 songs, you know. So
Yeah.
we can get to that point and get our catalog and get at least, you know, 2 albums worth of music in the next couple years, you know, then it gives us a better chance for people to really enjoy and get the full breadth of what we do. So it's building that library right now.
Do you prefer the recording to the playing live?
I like playing live, and I like the process of writing music. That's my thing. I like the process. I like the work that goes into it.
Yeah.
I like playing live. As far as the studio, no, I do not like it. That's his lane. You know, I do my part, and then I leave, and I leave him to the tedious work of the mixing and everything else. And if I need to go in to fix some warts, I'll go back in. But I don't have the headspace or the, you know, to be able to sit there and go through all the minutia. That's him. I like creating. I like the creative part. That's basically my thing.
Yeah, I get stuck with the drudgery. That's just
Yes.
that's our compromise.
Yes. Yes. It's a compromise. Like we talked last time. I'm the one. I deal with the promoters usually. I'm the one that deals with the label. I'm the one that, you know, like I met you. I'm the one that, you know, was contacting you. So I do that part of it, and he does. His main thing is the studio stuff. So
Yes.
aside from our normal creative stuff.
I suppose that works quite well because you're not all trying to do the same thing and sort of stepping on each other's toes, and kind of you've got your own roles within the process.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's definitely a partnership between us. And I said, I've known him longer than I've known my wife. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, we've been married for a long time, and we know each other, and, you know, we know, but we also know what pisses us off too. So it's exactly like a marriage. Yeah.
If we've been able to put up with each other this long, it's we're kind of stuck with each other.
We've
So.
been in other bands together prior to this one then.
Yeah, he had other projects. I still have other projects. I'm a working music as well, so I do a lot of other stuff. So I've had some mild good fortune within the business of playing with some other really talented people. So I'm thankful of that. But this is my baby. This is our baby. So
So
Yeah,
how
no.
long has I been going?
I'm sorry.
How long has I been going? How many years?
Woo!
It was
Interrupted. Like we started in what, 92?
92. Then we took a like a 15-year hiatus because
Quite a sabbatical. Yes.
Okay.
I got married, I raised kids, you know, I
Yeah.
you know, and then, but he's always been a working musician, so he's kept it up. And like even now, like I have a regular 9 to 5, you know, because I have a family, and so, you know, my work, I always say my work feeds my family, and this project feeds my soul, and that's how we keep it going. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a long process to get to where we're at, but there was a good vacation in the middle, which was a vacation for him, but you know, we took a long time off and stuff.
Yeah, and during that time, I didn't do anything. So in a weird way, I think it saved my voice, because a lot of guys who are my age and they never stopped, and you hear their voices already kind of like
Yeah.
worn out. So that time kind of
Definitely.
helped us out in the second run because my voice is
Yeah. So outside of music, is there anything else that influences or inspires you? Say books or artworks, films, anything
For me,
external like that?
for me, it's books. I'm a voracious reader, and weird enough, I listen to a lot of talk radio, and sometimes it's just like on the background, just because it keeps my mind. It allows me to focus on what I'm doing if there's something going on. Like I'm not good in silence because then I get in my own head. But sometimes I'll pick something up, like someone will say something and one phrase or one word, and that'll spark some creativity. But definitely books. Like so you'll read something and you're like, oh, I like what that says. Or again, sometimes just a simple line or a simple word, and you just kind of that's works for me.
Yeah, definitely books. Books on spirituality and meditation, stuff like that. And film. I like film. I like gritty, dirty, like 70s movies is really my thing. That era, late 60s. I'm just a weirdo. I think like the greatest era in American art, generally speaking, is like sometime between 65 and 75.
Yeah.
So it's like a real grittiness to everything. Everything got a little real as the artists were trying to portray, especially in film. I like that. I like that kind
I
of.
think that's where the grit comes from in your sound, because your sound is quite gritty and kind of. Do you think a lot of that comes from sort of film?
Yeah,
influences?
but when you were asking about like how our music is when we play live, what are we trying to convey? It, in a sense, that idea of the thread of just kind of playing continuously, it's although our performances aren't over the top, the idea is like musically it's a bit theatrical. It's like you're listening to one long unwinding sort of soundtrack that's going on in the background. So yeah, I like a lot of movie soundtracks and stuff like that. So creating somewhat in a small limited rock and roll sense, little soundscapes, little picture shows, you know.
If you had one message or piece of advice to share with your fans, what would it be?
You first.
One message, get the name right. And you know, yeah, we're not for everybody, but everybody could get something out of something that we do. I think it might not be every song fits your aesthetic, but I'm sure because we kind of have this and this going on, there's probably something in there that you could pick through and say like, oh, that I can understand and relate to.
Definitely.
I think that's the real thing, is something will trigger something, a lyric, an idea, a vibe will find its way deeper inside. I think it sounds a little pretentious, but that's kind of what we're going for.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that's a good message. Is give it a listen and give it time. We're not Bruno Mars. You're not going to hear it right away and go like, that's great. Sometimes you have to digest it, but definitely just give it time and listen. It's not just about a groove.
You have to unpack your sound to be able to understand it. It's not like listening to something catchy with a catchy sing-along chorus. You have to kind of take the time to listen and unpack and unravel and understand it, and then that's when it clicks and you can say, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, that's definitely the Pink Floyd influence. We kind of tend to write for ourselves and hope somebody gets it.
Yeah. And lastly, give yourselves a shameless plug.
Shameless. We'll be at the Viper Room. I don't know when this interview will air, but we're at the Viper Room here in Hollywood this Saturday, the 18th. And we'll have a new single dropping soon, and hopefully another one following that within a month or two. And go find us, go listen.
Where can people find you online?
The easiest way is through our Instagram, which is iBandOfficial4, or also our website, which is also ibandofficial.com. And that's the easiest way, because otherwise they'll get lost. But that has all the links to everything we do, and that's the easiest way.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much for talking to me. It's been lovely.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Really do appreciate it.
It's all right. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.